The following is a special presentation of the Buccaneers Sports Network. This is the Jay and Keith Show. Two broadcasters.
Oh, yeah.
Two microphones. And one meticulously scripted podcast.
You what?
Just kidding. Get it, J.K.? You get it.
That's what I thought was so funny. It's not funny.
Alongside Keith Brake, here's the voice of the Bucs, Jay Sandos.
All right, it's another edition, Jay and Keith, as promised. Believe it or not, sometimes we promised this summer and not followed through, but I did follow through with the promise. I guess Keith did too. Monday, we're podding. We're going to talk all things media day. We're going to talk polls. We're going to talk ETSU getting a little bit more love than honestly I thought they were deservingly so. They should have got what they got. I didn't have faith that the coaches would vote that way, but a lot of guys making the preseason all-conference teams. Now, a lot of them on the second team, so we'll talk about that. The media polls, which, again, as always, I will tell you how I voted because I believe in transparency.
And I will as well. We both got a ballot this year, so
yeah, we'll do that. We'll do a lot. But first, there was a big controversy over the last week or so. Barbenheimer, whatever it's called.
Barbenheimer is the maybe I said this may be the last big movie-going event of my lifetime like this. Because the way that the movie theater experience has been changing, it just makes it very different. It's rare that you get something that could resemble a true double feature. Now, my wife and I did not, because Oppenheimer is 3 hours. Right? Barbie is like an hour 45. We can do that. Oppenheimer was a true 3-hour film. Doing both of those in the same day was a lot. So we did Barbie Saturday night after dinner. Got up the next day, did brunch, and went to Oppenheimer Sunday afternoon.
So you said, the heck with making one choice, I'm just going to do them both. Because the big argument was, which one would you do, right?
No, the big argument is do both.
Oh.
Like, that's been the big thing, is do both. Now, most people have done, far more people have done Barbie than Oppenheimer, but like the big chatter on social media is Barbenheimer. You don't pick one, you do both. You see them as a double feature, and we couldn't quite do that, but we made it into a Barbenheimer weekend, and both very good. They complement each other very well. Cillian Murphy is phenomenal as J. Robert Oppenheimer. Christopher Nolan does a great job. Very little CGI. It's almost all practical effects. I believe he just used a bunch of TNT to replicate the Trinity test. I don't think he actually detonated a nuclear weapon.
You don't think, but you're not going to commit to that.
You know what? I am not 100% sure,
Okay.
but whatever he did, it was incredible. That was really an intense part of the movie, even though you know it's going to go off without a hitch because the actual Trinity test did. But that was really good. Barbie is a lot more, as a film, it's a lot more intelligent than it probably could have been. It could have just been like, silly toy commercial, hijinks, ha-ha, buy stuff, and it's not that.
So it's the me for radio as Barbie is the movie. Is that what you're saying?
I mean, the movie looked better in pink than usual.
Oh, well,
it was so colorful, too. I just thoroughly enjoyed Barbie. I actually probably like Barbie a little bit more.
Are you, I'm going to be shocked. I am shocked by that statement. Would you be shocked that I've seen neither?
No.
Okay.
Because you are allergic to pop culture.
Now, my wife, daughter, and my wife took, I think, some friends, and they saw Barbie, and they were dressed out in pink, and I think they enjoyed themselves. But no, I've not seen neither.
I would not take your kids to see Oppenheimer.
Well, that was not an option. But,
No.
But I'm just saying you're shocked, not shocked, that I have not watched.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of philosophy in it, and I should have expected that from Greta Gerwig, but like she really went above and beyond, and she had the cast to do it too. I mean, Ryan Gosling is phenomenal, Margot Robbie's obviously fantastic, Kate McKinnon as Weird Barbie is really fun as well. It was good.
So in Oppenheimer, did they have any references to Oak Ridge?
Yes, there was. Yeah, Oak Ridge is where they enrich the uranium.
Right.
And so when they're setting up Los Alamos, they're talking about this is how much uranium Oak Ridge enriched in the last month. And they had like a jar full of marbles, and the jar was about the size of what they would need in terms of the uranium to create a sufficiently large bomb to do what the United States was hoping that a nuclear weapon would do. And it honestly probably did more than the United States wanted it to do when they dropped it. But yeah, Matt Damon was really good as well. Emily Blunt's awesome. That cast in Oppenheimer was really, really strong. A phenomenal experience at the movies over the last couple of days. If you do have the opportunity to see Oppenheimer in IMAX, though, do it. I did not, but I can see why it would appeal differently, or hit differently in that particular venue. If you get the chance to see it on IMAX, do it. It's a little more expensive. It's probably like $20 a seat, but it's worth it. But yes, I think Oppenheimer will have a lot of Oscar nominations. Robert Downey Jr. was great as Louis Strauss, where he's kind of like, he is the bad guy, right? Like, he's the bad guy of the whole movie. And I didn't realize the history of it and the internal politics of it and all of that, and how Oppenheimer was discredited and later viewed as sort of a tragic hero of American energy policy. But it was fascinating to watch. I've learned a lot already just, reading up on the background of what was done. And obviously a little bit of it's dramatized, but not a lot of it. And he uses, color versus black and white, and the color is Oppenheimer's perspective, and the black and white is more of the reality of things. It was really well done. It was really well done. I enjoyed it. It is not a happy film. It is a heavy film. Whereas Barbie, with all of its philosophical elements, is still very light, very happy, finds ways and places to have its charm on full display. But I would encourage you to see both. I would encourage you to give each one some time to breathe. If you're going to do them on the same day, go have a sit-down meal in between. Go out to lunch or an early dinner or whatever. See one, go out, have the meal, come back, see the other. And probably, I would probably see Barbie second. If I had it to do over again, I would probably do them the other way around. I would see Oppenheimer first and Barbie second. But I saw Barbie first and Oppenheimer second.
Okay, here we go. Also must
Will
watch.
you see either of these films?
I will probably, yes. I will see both, but it will not be at a theater. I am committed to go take the boys to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That looks good.
So I will be going to take them for that.
I saw a trailer for that. It looked really good.
Because I tried to get the girls to wait a week or so until that came out. We'd all go at the same time, just watch different things. But 11-year-old daughter, she's ready to go see and do. So that was fine. And they actually watched it last night, Sunday night. So they didn't have a lot going on Monday because school starts Wednesday. So I will be doing that.
Oh man, I forgot about
school.
That part.
Unbelievable. Unlike August, I don't even want to get.
That's a Tennessee thing too. Like that changed when I was in school,
so
like in middle school, and I was like, what is this? Especially when I went up to North Dakota, and they still start grade school after Labor Day. Like, your summer really is Memorial Day to Labor Day up there, and I was like, whew, man. If summer is, it's Memorial Day or it's Labor Day to like 2 weeks before Memorial Day in college. So I loved my summers at ETSU because they were like 6 weeks longer than the one I had when I was in grade school. Anyway, speaking of grades, grading out a new venue for the SoCon for Media Day.
Yeah. Well, how about before we get to Media Day? I do want to do one correction. We were talking a little bit on the two deep, right? Mm-hmm. And got to the anchor of the nose guard position. And so I got to Jade Miles, and I did not have updated information on Jade Miles. And, I talked about the one thing that I know the coaches would want him to do was to drop some weight. And got an update today. Not only has he dropped weight, he's dropped a tremendous amount of weight. He's somewhere in between 315 and 320, and very much in the mix to push Mustafa Al-Gharwi for the number 2 slot. Now, Miles, people may or may not remember, but was kind of thrust into duty a couple years ago in the Kennesaw State, but more so because Timmy Dorsey was injured in that North Dakota State game. So he didn't play a lot during the regular season, but I thought come up big. I think he played a little bit in the Mercer game too. But he played a little bit in Mercer, got a pretty good chunk of time in both playoff games. So he's a guy that has seen game time action before. He's going to be pushing to be the number 2 behind Max Evans. Didn't have an updated list. I did on most positions, but the D-line I did not. I think I didn't really have the linebackers either. I did have secondary update, but I didn't have all that stuff. So I did, with the information I had, give it. It was incorrect. Wanted to get that out there because we like to pride ourselves on correct information. It was also pointed out to me that it was incorrect, so I did what I should do. I went and followed up, and then a little retraction here because if a guy's worked hard enough in less than a year to lose 40 pounds to get himself in position to see significant playing time, I think the heart and dedication of that should be celebrated.
Agreed.
And so, again, I do want to make a correction because I was incorrect. And so I own that when we say things. You know, there are times that we are incorrect and either fans, player, parents, relatives, something, even coaches, and they won't tell me till later, and they're mad about it. And I'm like, there's nothing easier than letting me know if I have something incorrect. I will be more than happy because our job as podcasters for this university specifically, and not even that, I've said stuff that's wrong where I've had other fan bases that listen and say, no, this guy's injury was this, and I think you said that. And I really hate getting an injury wrong because that's for a lot of reasons. But if there is something incorrect, I welcome the, hey, you got that, this is it, and then I will do my due diligence to not just take somebody's word for it, but not calling them liars either, but just make sure I follow back up and go, hey, or just fine and say, well, that somebody covers this as this, but this is in-house, so this was very easy to correct. So, Jaden, I apologize. You've done some good work. You're going to be in the mix, and certainly
and that adds,
much needed depth.
Adds depth to the defensive line. Yeah, if you've got 3 guys at the anchor that you feel okay about, maybe that offers the opportunity. If Jalen George doesn't quite work out, Broadus Brown doesn't work out at the 3, maybe you move Max Evans over and you clear the way for somebody. The depth of this defensive front suddenly looks okay. Like I feel a little more encouraged by what I'm seeing right in the trenches from the guys at the front 3 than maybe what I was, a month ago when we were still wondering who's going to fill A, B, C, D spot. And we brought in Broadus Brown, brought in Rod Fitton, and this group seems like it's going to take a step. And I heard this from Sheldon Arnold at Media Day. I heard it from Noah West at Media Day. They both believe, and I heard this from Max Evans in the spring, Jalen George is a player. Jalen George is going to play a lot. They think he can be an impact player very early in his career. And we're going to talk about Media Day now.
We're going to get some new bumpers, too. I'm going to make Keith give me some new bump music.
Yeah, you've been hounding me about that for a while. But then I went to South Carolina for 2 weeks and kind of fell off the grid.
I decided to get married.
Yeah, no.
Not a team player. It's all about Keith.
Yes, actually, yes. Well, no, I play for 2 different teams. I'm like a professional cricketer. I have one season that I play for one team, and then I go for another season, play for a different team. And that team is my marriage.
Right, that's a good team to play for.
It's a great team to play for. I agree.
Your other team,
I signed a lifetime contract with them, so I hope it's a good team to play for.
The other team is the Buccaneer Sports Network, and you represented the team on Media Day. Your thoughts on the new venue?
So it's the Hotel Hartness, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a little bit intimate, right? But my understanding was that last year's venue was very almost too spacious. So as a course correction from that, it was pretty okay. I was worried that my audio would get a little bit too washed out, but everything worked out great. It all sounded really good. Now, I will say, if the media demand for the SoCon starts to increase, the space can't take it. So there does need to be maybe a thought to expanding the space or creating like breakout spaces for teams or for people who are trying to do interviews. There's not really a space to do any sort of like Radio Row environment as well. So there are some things that I think you can assess for subsequent years. But for what the event was this year, this past week, I thought it was really good. It was really, really good. And it was good to see a lot of different media outlets there. Obviously, the Blue Bloods were there, and Red Shirt Sports was there, in addition to all of the papers and the TV outlets. Kenny Hawkins and Heather Williams were both there from local news. So it was Johnson City, the Tri-Cities market was well represented. And I thought overall the media interest in the SoCon appeared to be very high. It was almost, like I said, if the event gets too much bigger, I think the venue might strain to host it. But for what it was this year, it was great. And the event overall was a success.
So a lot of things. You got a lot of sound bites, which you will be putting out.
So I talked to 7 of the 9 head coaches, including
who
George
shunned
Forbes.
you. Who shunned you?
So I made the deliberate choice because Chris Hatcher will talk your ear off, and we all know that he's an established commodity. I wanted to get Michael Hires, so I made the choice to get the preseason Offensive Player of the Year instead of his head coach. And by the time I got a bunch of the other interviews, Mercer had already left, so I did not get anybody from Mercer. And that's the only one. But I got the other 7 head coaches, and I got the preseason Offensive Player of the Year. So we'll sprinkle those in over the next few days. We also have.
I was writing it down. No Sanford, no Mercer. I was writing it down. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I have Sanford's quarterback.
Yeah, we have Hires,
and he's basically he's basically a younger Chris Hatcher.
Does he sound like?
He kind of sounds like Hatch.
Stop it.
He sounds a little bit like if you just age him 25 years, then yeah, he probably would sound a lot.
So
like
that's
Hatch.
what. So not only do they have a system type for, a quarterback comes in and you get plugged in and anybody can run the system, but you must have a sound too, because I don't know if you ever talked to or ever heard Devlin, a.k.a. Duck Hodges.
I never heard Duck talk.
But his nickname is Duck.
I only watched him throw to Kelvin McKnight, and then Kelvin McKnight get him a bunch of passing yards.
And I watched him win a game with the Steelers once.
Yeah.
And then, but still, his nickname was Duck, so you can imagine sort of the twang, if you will. So, Chris Hatcher does speak.
I thought that was for his arm strength. Sorry.
Ha! Look, coming in hot.
I will say this. I think Hires has some. I think Hires is really good. Like, he's got the arm to push the ball down the field. He's got a little more athleticism. I think he can move around outside the pocket a little bit better and extend plays with his legs when called upon. He doesn't have to do that very often because the ball has to come out in 2.5 seconds anyway in that offense. But I am a Michael Hires fan. I was not as big of a fan of Duck as I am of Hires. I think this kid is really, really good. I think he is the rightful offensive player of the year, and he's going to be a Peyton contender.
Was that because you had some green and gold glasses on, or what color are they?
Well, Easton Stick finished 3rd in the Peyton Award voting and then went out and scored 5 touchdowns on Eastern Washington the following day. So I guess he got the last laugh because he got the ring. But no, I just thought I thought McKnight was a phenomenal receiver. Like, he did so much great work in that offense. And if you have to throw the ball 4 yards, 5 yards in the air, and McKnight goes and gets you 15 after the catch, I mean, you can put that math together.
Okay. Any other thoughts on the not Sanford quarterbacks, but the intimacy of your media day experience?
No, I thought that was good. That was good. We were able to find some spaces. I did. Ultimately, Kevin Brown suggested we take our players outside. And initially I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then we were standing there. It was 91 degrees. And we were kind of like,
not so much.
Was it a mistake to make Noah West sit there for 6 minutes while he interviewed Sheldon Arnold? Why did Sheldon Arnold stay for another 6 minutes while he interviewed Noah West?
I feel like that's a Kevin Brown problem, not yours.
No, that's fair.
You're just the media guy.
Yeah.
So
well, it just looks like they've been getting some. They go back in and they're like, we're all glazed with sweat. Looks like the guys go on camera and they all look like they're just getting an extra lift in during media day or something.
Well, they're football guys. That's fine.
Yeah, they're football guys. They love football. Sheldon Arnold. Listen, people. You talk about like, wow, this guy really loves football. Sheldon Arnold loves football. I don't really know of many players that watch film of other guys in the conference that play the same position and just study them. Sheldon Arnold is a student of the safety position in the Southern Conference. And he's just super smart guy. And it was really fun to talk to him. And we talked a little X's and O's about, how do you slow down Samford's offense? How do you do this? How do you do that? But all those different things that you can really kind of get in the weeds with the guy. And I just really enjoyed sitting down and talking with Sheldon, talking football with him. And he was really fun. And the interview was good, too. We didn't talk as much scheme stuff in the interview, but he was just so giving of his time and really gave me the in-depth stuff that you love to have to inform how you watch a football game. If you ever want to change your perspective on how you watch football, talk to the guys that are executing the scheme that you critique and ask them questions. Because most of the time, they'll give you an answer. Because a lot of times they have the answer. Like Sheldon had and that's what I think that's a compliment to coaches as well. Because there is still, I think, a little bit of the because I said so era of football coaches. You ask him, Coach, why is this the call against this? It's because I said it is. Now go do it. And that doesn't help you learn. But when you get in the film room, you take those questions, you answer those questions, you explain stuff, and you teach guys how the different parts of football work together. How do the pieces fit? Don't just teach them like they're one piece. Teach them the whole scheme. And especially with safeties, they have to relay. They're kind of the guys that are responsible for a lot of the checks in Billy Taylor's defense. So he has to know every position to some degree or another. And you can really tell that he understands how all the pieces fit in the scheme. It was a really fun, insightful conversation. And we probably talked for like 15, 20 minutes once we got back inside. It was great.
And it's up on Twitter right now.
Yes, the interview is about 6-7 minutes. The interview that we did on the front end of that conversation is available on social media at Buck Sports Radio on both Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, there you go. Twitter, Instagram, Sheldon Arnold interview. He's going to have more of those interviews coming out. The big thing, usually besides getting to talk to these folks, is preseason polls,
yes.
Preseason all-conference. That's
yes.
sort of the big thing. And we'll start with the polls first. And for the coaches, there was a tie for points. Even though Furman had more first-place votes, it was Furman and Samford tied. The coaches agree. Now, coaches' polls, they can vote. Can they vote for their team? I don't think they can vote for their team. I don't remember. I know they can't vote for players.
I don't think they can vote for their team, no.
Yeah, no, they can't vote for players. Anyways, Furman and Samford tied atop 59 points. Third place was Mercer. Fourth, Chattanooga. 5, Western Carolina. 6, ETSU. 7, Wofford. Then the academies, the Citadel and VMI rounds it out. A little bit of a slight difference. There's a little bit of a slight difference in the media. Furman was the resounding number one choice with 30 first-place votes, 345 total points. Samford 2. Again, Mercer 3, Chat 4, Western 5, ETSU 6. That remained the same. The Citadel was 7th in the media poll by 1 point over Wofford, 103-102 on total points. Wofford 8th, and then VMI 9th. Now, really the only big difference between mine and the other media poll, because I'm just going to stick with media. Well, actually, let's go to coaches. They tend to. I don't know if they know more or not. But
I had this discussion last night with some folks up at South Dakota State. Shout out to the Jackrabbit Illustrated crew. Coaches know their conference really well, but nationally they are not as well informed as the media are.
I would agree with that. I think they're so ingrained into watching so much tape of games that they're going to play.
Yes, absolutely.
That the downtime. I've just talked to, like, I think basketball coaches have a little bit more grip because they're able to watch other games where football, the intricacy and everything that goes and the nuances of the complexity of everything, it's just very difficult. And then their downtime, they've got to watch tape on 300 high school kids as they continue to build a recruiting board in the middle of the season as well. So there's just a lot there. And so I think basketball has a slight advantage, but don't get me wrong, basketball guys they have a little bit more clue around national stuff, mid-majors, not necessarily the rest. But I went back and forth on Samford and Furman. They were my clear 1-2, and I had Samford just, I don't hate because I love Ric Flair, but to quote, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And so I'm going to go with Samford. Plus, they returned the all-conference preseason player of the year, Michael Hires at quarterback. So, and defensively, they were way better in Tier 2 for their defense coordinator. So I went Samford. But again, when people said, well, what about Furman? I was like, listen, if they're picked for, I'm not going to argue. I think they're the two best teams. So I had Samford Furman where it was a tie amongst the coaches. Yep. I had the team that starts with a C, and that's actually how I wrote it down on my ballot. The team with a C that I cannot say their name as 3, Mercer 4, but the more I've talked to Chattanooga people, I probably would have flipped that. I thought about every position but quarterback, and they're going to have a quarterback either that has not thrown a college pass or one that's thrown like 5 or 6. Right?
No, they're not going to have a quarterback that's thrown a college pass.
Okay, very good.
It's like I don't think their quarterbacks have thrown any college passes, have they?
I thought they got UCLA through like 2 or 3.
I know he got in a game, but I don't think he actually threw a pass.
Maybe he didn't throw.
So he didn't have any stats.
Maybe he didn't throw it.
Artopius, it did not has not thrown a college pass in 4 years.
Okay, so they just returned so much, especially I know Devontae Maxwell's gone. Obviously, that's a big loss, but they still return a lot defensively.
Person, Bruton up front, Cam Brown in the secondary.
Cam's unbelievable. Sometimes he's starting to get a lot more love than what I thought he should have got last year. They still have a great job of that kind of zone running attack, and of course they got a limb forward. They got Appleberry backing them up, so they've got a 1-2 punch running back game. Their O-line is going to be solid. They always are. So defensively, they're going to be solid. The biggest question is, can the quarterback help them or not? Anyway, so if I really would have looked at it from there, I probably could have got but I had Chat 3, Mercer 4, which, again, I feel like they were still 3-4. And if you flip it doesn't matter. Then I thought Western is probably the team that could either make the jump in the middle of the pack at 5, and I think this always in the Southern Conference has kind of been this way. There's a 5-6 team, it seems like every year, that either elevates up to be a championship-level type team or they do fall flat on their face and go to the bottom. And I think Western, I can see either. I could see them being better than what you expect, and then they get into that second, third kind of slot. I don't know if they're good enough. Actually, I'm going to say they're not good enough yet to win a championship, but I could see them winning enough games to be a second-place team, third place. But I could also see them being a team that you kind of had the middle of the pack, and for whatever reason, things just don't shake out their way, and they could fall lower in the pack. Western's kind of that team for me. I think ETSU was picked 6th in both. That's where I had them. I think that's probably, right now, all things known, that's probably fair where they should be. And then I thought Wofford 7, and because the coaching changes, I'm going to go knowing the Citadel, the way Coach Drayton does, it's his 3rd time there. I think Mo's going to do a great job, but I think they're going to be 8, and then Rocco and VMI is going to be 9. That's what I had. What did you have?
So I had Furman and Samford, basically a coin flip. There's so much continuity with the Paladins across the board that it's really hard for me to sit there and say that this team isn't going to learn from its mistakes, because that's what college football teams used to do, and to see Furman be able to keep everybody there. They didn't really lose any huge contributors to the transfer portal when they probably could have. Tyler Huff is settled in as the leader of that offense. They've got some great weapons behind him and around him. Defensively, they bring back their top 9 tacklers and 10 of their top 12 or something. They're going to be fine there. that team is really, really good. But Samford, like you said, I mean, to be the man, you got to beat the man. For a lot of people, that's the way you look at it. I still I wonder how consistent their defense can be. And can they do that again, having to go out and recruit some more defensive players? Now, I don't buy into the idea. I will say the scheme worked, and they made it work. I don't buy into the idea of being bearish on Samford's defense because they don't bring back any first-team All-SoCon defenders. Because they didn't have any first-team All-SoCon defenders to bring back because nobody got onto the first-team All-SoCon defense from Samford. And they went 8-0 in the league. So I don't really see that as a cause for concern. I know there's some national media outlets have been like, well, you wonder about Samford's defense. I think it's going to be fine. October 14th is going to be a fun game. It's going to be really hard for Furman because they're coming off the Citadel the week before. You got to go from triple option to tempo spread. I mean, you're basically just going to be, it's just going to be like one-on-one. You're on an island. You're on an island of the option. You miss your assignment, big play happens. You're one-on-one against Samford. You miss your assignment, big play happens. And as reductive as that might sound, I think you can get guys to buy into what you need to do schematically when you have a mentality that's just carrying over from one week to the next like that. So I had Furman first, Samford second. Mercer I have third. They have to figure out quarterback. I think it's going to be Carter Peavy. Based on their media guide, they think it's going to be Carter Peavy. It seems like that's how they're planning to move forward, but you just never know. If he settles in, I think Mercer is a dark horse to win the conference because he's got the best 1-2 punch maybe in the SoCon in Harper and James. And they bring back a good amount of the running backs group. They bring back a decent chunk of their defense. Land, the linebacker, is just a old school downhill thumper. He's fun to watch. He racks up a lot of tackles. It might not be, the biggest thorn in the side in terms of every aspect of defense, but he always seems to find his way into the middle of everything up front. So I have them third. I have Western Carolina fourth. And I agree with you that I think they are a little bit of a boom and bust team. I think it's about a young team taking a big step forward. Sincere Lee has an opportunity to really put his stamp down as the premier receiver in the conference if he wants to, as he's got Cole Gonzalez as his quarterback coming back after Carlos Davis left. So that's what you're looking at in that situation. They did bring in a veteran quarterback to compete with Gonzalez. Charlie Dean was a 2-year starter, I believe, at Harvard. So there's some competition there, but they feel pretty comfortable with Gonzalez being the guy. And, I mean, he's, he proved that he can win games last year for Western Carolina. What he did at the end of the season, obviously he brought them in here, and they walked it off against ETSU. So we know that they can do that. I have Western Carolina fourth. And then I have Chattanooga fifth, but like you, I have reservations about the quarterback spot. Chase Artopius hasn't thrown a college pass. They was it Luke Schomburg, redshirt freshman, doesn't have a ton of experience. What does that look like? What does that competition look like? Is it Artopius? How does he gel with the team coming in from Power 5 environment? Obviously very different. I talked to Rusty Wright. He said he was very meticulous about making his decision. He had a spreadsheet, like a big old spreadsheet of like offensive personnel and historical records and all this stuff. He really got in the weeds and made his decision. And among several SoCon teams that were vying for his services, he chose Chattanooga. How does that work out? That, to me, really determines whether Chattanooga is a playoff team or not. I think Chattanooga could be a really good 6-5 team or a 7-4 team that loses the wrong game at the wrong time, and they end up not making the postseason again. ETSU at 6, I think, is fair. I had Wofford at 7. I talked with Sean Watson. He said, we feel good about a lot of our pieces, but we are still trying to figure out the quarterback position. And that is not a great sign for a team when, I mean, you look at Wofford's schedule, and I don't know that it's super kind to them because their first FCS game is at William and Mary, Then they get Presbyterian and VMI, so maybe there's a little chance to do something there. And Chattanooga, Sanford, you get those at home. But it's not going to be just a cakewalk. You're going to have two really, really tough games to get it started. You could very easily start, 0-2 or 2-3, maybe even 1-3 or 1-4 if you're not careful at VMI, because VMI is going to have a chip on their shoulder because nobody thinks they can do jack squat. And Danny Rocco kind of came in and said, "We don't take transfers. We're bringing in like 30-odd freshmen." We said, "We're going to play for," and he told his team when he took over, said, "We're going to play for the seniors who have been through hell for this program. We're going to do it for them in the fall of 2023. So I think VMI could absolutely upset an apple cart for somebody. And then the Citadel, I had 8th. VMI is last. Because ultimately, I just don't see VMI could win a game, but I don't see them winning enough games to really be a factor in the middle or the upper part of the conference.
So there is some interesting things because schedule-wise, Furman and Chat back-to-back weeks will play Kennesaw State, which normally be a great FCS game you got lined up. Mm-hmm. But Kennesaw State is now going to be allowed to over-recruit and have a few more Scallies on there.
Yes, this is the upward transition year, I believe, for Kennesaw State.
So how the committee treats some of that has been up in the air in years past. But you're looking at Furman. I mean, think about this. Furman's going to play Tennessee Tech. Mm-hmm. Right? Then they got at South Carolina, SEC school. Then you get at Kennesaw State, which is going to be over-recruiting, back-to-back road games. Then you got Mercer. Mm-hmm. So just a boom, boom, boom where let's talk about Mercer. All right, they get Alabama in that Week 0 kickoff classic on ESPN.
North Alabama,
excuse me. On the
that's a pretty considerable difference.
Right. Yes. FCS kickoff, it is in Alabama, but yes, North Alabama. Yeah. Then they're at Ole Miss. Then they get a little bit of a tune-up with Morehead State, and then you jump into Furman, VMI, right?
Well, they got Ole Miss as well.
They got Ole Miss, but you get a week to kind of recover with Morehead State.
Yeah, sure.
You get a week there to recover. Now
they get Furman off a bye.
Oh, it's Furman. Oh, I didn't. Yeah,
Furman is off the bye. So Mercer comes off its bye week and goes to Greenville to play Furman. So that's going to be
because Mercer played that week 0. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So for Furman, to me, that's a tough stretch because you had South Carolina, you thought a good FCS opponent in Kennesaw State. It's after the Tennessee Tech game to open the year. Then you get Mercer. To me, you're going to know a lot about Furman, right there, and could that be Mercer's advantage? Mm-hmm. And I think it's Chattanooga, they play North Alabama as well the week after Mercer. They get taped, they get all that. Then they get Kennesaw State, which again is now a different level game. But then they get the Citadel before they play a higher level opponent with Sanford. Then you look at Sanford's schedule. All right, they get shorter on the Thursday night to get things going.
That's a non-counter.
Then they're at Western again. Don't really know what you're going to get right there. But Western, I think, is a dangerous game because the very next game's at Auburn. And Sanford, I think, lives in a world, again, that's an in-state rivalry. That's a game where a few years ago.
Is it?
Well, I mean, no, it's not. But for Sanford, that's the Super Bowl. That's the Super Bowl for them. They're going to get a new coach and a new system. A few years ago, if you remember, Sanford had a shot at Florida State to win. And they had a first half against Auburn where it was like 7-3 or 10-3, and then they got crushed in the second half. But they had a chance to make some noise. And Sanford plays just enough of a weird style of offense to where if you're not careful, and if Auburn's looking ahead to the next opponent, that's where you can get something. But then they turn and play Chat. That's my ultimate point. They're going to play Western Carolina where they're thinking that's a winnable game for them. Mm-hmm. They're going to be looking and eyeing Auburn because I think all people at FCS think about that big game. Because and especially in-state. I think it's a bigger situation. Like, does ETSU have a shot of beating Tennessee? No, they don't. But does every kid wearing a blue and gold uniform want to beat Tennessee and put a lot into that? They do.
I think it depends on the culture of your program. And it depends on how well you can rally guys to focus on the games that really matter for you as a program. And the game that really – Sanford brings back a lot of veteran offensive players. I talked to Hires, and he seems very focused on, hey, we went 8-0 in the SoCon last year. We're trying to do it again. I think very clearly for them that the goal is the SoCon. They're going to go to Cullowhee, and they're going to be laser focused. And I don't know that Western is going to be quite that focused because this is still a team that takes a lot of chances on defense. Nobody better exemplifies that than Andreas Keaton. Andreas Keaton is willing to get his butt handed to him in coverage to make a play on the football. Like, he is willing to take risks. He's willing to get blown up, and that's the whole Western Carolina defensive MO. They're trying to improve that, but I'm not worried about Sanford going to Cullowhee week 2. I'm just not.
So that's also flipping there. For Western, they go to Arkansas. Then they host Sanford. Then they're at Eastern Kentucky. I mean, there's a shot where I'm thinking they could make either some headway and make some noise, or they could be sitting there 0-3. Right. Yeah. So that's my point on Western. They could jump up there and be a contender, but if they're 0-3, which is very likely, I mean, honestly, Arkansas, let's say 0-1, Sanford at home, we both think Sanford's probably going to win that game.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to beat Eastern Kentucky either.
It's going to be tough.
So that's 0-3. Now, they do get they get to play a couple of the Charleston schools where they host Charleston Southern.
Should beat Charleston
then they go
Southern.
to the Citadel. Then they got Chatton Furman. And then Mercer. Oh, my goodness, I didn't even scroll down. So that's why I think either Western's going to make a big jump when I looked at their schedule, or I could see that, loss, and then all of a sudden it's tough to recover.
Yeah. And you mean at that point, you get to Chattanooga and you're just desperate for the bell of the bye week at that point to get you right, to get back on track against Furman. It could go either way.
I mean, they could be 2-6. I mean, there's realistic opportunity to be 2-6 going into Wofford, ETSU, VMI to fight to get to 5-6. Or if they're sitting there 6-2,
they're 4-2 at the bye.
4-2.
You're suddenly thinking, okay, we got a shot at this. Yeah. So like we both talked about in our preseason ballots, it's a boom bust operation.
Yep. All right. Well, I don't want too much time on that because I will do a full schedule breakdown of games to watch by week and some of the other fun stuff we'll do. Real quick, the all-conference teams, ETSU, none on the – well, let's talk about players of the year. Well, you're going to do that first. Obviously, you talked about Michael Hires. You had a conversation with him.
Yeah.
To me, that's a no-brainer.
Yep.
The defensive player of the year, Jay Person, Chattanooga, I get why he got that. I will just curious to see, without Devonshire Maxwell, how will he be able to adjust because Maxwell took up double and triple teams.
Well, now it's Ben Bruton's turn. Right, because Person is going to we're not going to let Person beat us, so Bruton is going to thrive. I still think Person is going to have a very good year because Maxwell still had a very good year last year. So I'm not too worried about we're going to double team, we're going to chip in, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, blah blah. I think Person is the right choice as the preseason defensive player of the year. I think there are some interesting guys. I said Land earlier. I was thinking of Isaiah Land from Florida A&M, who is obviously professional. Now, as Isaac Dowling was the guy I was trying to think of for Mercer, the linebacker.
Well, he's solid.
Just racks up a ton of tackles. Yeah. I don't know how is he just an all-around like juggernaut in the middle of the defense? I don't know, but he just finds a way to the football. He makes plays. I really think the defensive player of the year is going to come from the defensive line in the SoCon this season, at the end of the season, and I don't see a reason to think it's not going to be on that Chattanooga defensive line.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Then you go to the second team. Now you get some ETSU guys. No ETSU first team. I said it earlier, but just to, again, reiterate, there was no first team. Second team on offense, Noah West, Will Huzzy. Tough to argue, I think, with either one of those. And then defensively, had a sneaky suspicion Sheldon Arnold would be on it.
Yes.
He was, and I was very happy to see that Max Evans got some love as he's also second team as well on the defense.
Yes, and both of those made sense to me. Max Evans is the anchor. I think he's going to be that position, and he's a leader of that defense, someone that is going to be very much paving the way for the pass rushers or just the linebackers to get clean into the backfield and be disruptive like they were for much of the year last year. And then Sheldon Arnold, I don't see a reason to think that Sheldon Arnold isn't the face of that defense for a lot of people. I think there's good reason to believe that he is the face of that defense for ETSU. He believes he's the best safety in the conference, that he can prove that on film when it comes to the end product of 2023, and he's putting in the work into that end. I think getting him some recognition, like, hey, you're on our radar. You're somebody that we are taking note of as somebody that could really impress at the end of the season. I think he's a big-time breakout candidate. And then the specialists, Trace Kelly,
yeah, how about that?
Second team, and long snapper Ryan Phillips as well. So, cool. I was excited for that.
Yeah. No first team, but we kind of talked about just off air, would they get some love? Would it be like a couple of guys, or would we get 5 or 6? We ended up getting 5 or 6, which I was pleasantly surprised. I thought the coaches may not, because I voted on the coaches, get as much love, but they did. And I kind of was hoping Will Huzzy on first team. I thought he probably had the best realistic shot again on first team, but again, there's some solid choices. I'm not hating on any of that. I don't really when Mike was here and then when Parker was here, they would get fired up over first team selection. I don't. It's at the end of the year, did you make it? That's really what I'm concerned about. So.
I agree. I think it's so hard to figure out where guys are going to be. It's so hard to forecast. It's a lot easier to do it in hindsight and get it right.
All right. Fall camp finally started. More football talk later. Jay and Keith,
Buccaneers Sports Network.
Oh, you got to be kidding me.